can Krishna be understood as he is. So that's the reason why he cannot understand Brahmaji. So again, he climbs back on the stem and the whole stem, and then he sits, and then he, what do you say? He does his penance for 100 years, and after that, the fructification of his penance is that he'll see the Supreme Lord in his heart, and then he's in that heart. He's able to see again the Daksha Vishnu, and then he's able to see the navel in which is filled with water, the lotus flower coming up, spreading and coming. On top of that, he's sitting. So that's what happens. But as soon as he wakes up, right after the devastation, when he is actually born, he looks around all the four directions. He's accumulating in the lotus flower. Because he is doing that, that's when he develops the foreheads. And after he develops the foreheads, that's when he goes down and then comes back, does the penance, and then has this darshan. And then the end of this third canto, 8th chapter was I completed yesterday. And then the culmination was how the beautiful, the glorious form of the Garbhodaksha Vishnu, the splendid chest, his beautiful helmet, and then his hands, and then the transcendental lotus feet of the Lord, which he actually a little bit elevates up so that Brahma can have the darshan of his lotus feet. And then it also speaks about the toenails of the Lord, And then I was remembering how Srila Prabhupada was in one of the purports here saying that I think it's a shastra, it's not Prabhupada saying, sorry, that if when they are meditating, like the yogi, when he's meditating, when he concentrates on the lotus feet, he usually concentrates on the lotus feet. And then the toenails, the effulgence, when he is able to see the effulgence which is emanating from the toenails of Lord Vishnu, then all his material desires are instantly it'll come to an end. So that much of power those toenails, the effulgence of the toenails of the Lord has. So that is also a little bit explained in the purport. And then that's about it. So that was the end of the 8th chapter.
Okay, that's lovely description of the toenails. Thank you. So, what do you suggest? We continue with our reading with the book we were reading, right? The Brilliant as Sun, Bhagavatam retelling.
Yes, Mataji.
And Maitreya.
Yes, Mataji.
I think, but that's a good idea to go to the original Bhagavatam also and read. I think it's a great idea. So we stopped somewhere here. Yeah, this is about, okay, we can read from here. Somebody likes to start with, any of you want to start from here? Vidhura blushed slightly. Because Vidhura is asking a lot of questions. And Maitreya is like, that's a lot of questions.
Also, just one more point I just remembered when you said that Vidhura asked lots of questions. This is actually the previous chapter, right? When we were discussing before you went for the yatra. All those questions are actually each of the verses of the 7th chapter. Like you were telling that we want to make a note of all those questions, right? It's already there. You just have to go to the 7th chapter. You'll get all these questions. Perhaps the answers will keep coming. That's one thing. And second thing is, Maitreya Muni is telling it to addressing Mahatma Vidhura, and he's saying that, Vidhura, you're coming in this line of the dynasty of Puru, who are great devotees of the Lord, and that's why all your inquiries are so beautiful. And then just by explaining, it's like the transcendental bliss and the newer and newer kind of understanding that I get by explaining is so beautiful. So those 2 points I wanted to just share. It's really beautiful. So I just thought I'll share.
Oh. Wow. Okay, I'll start. Vidhura blushed slightly. Master, there are many inexperienced people who advocate self-realization without the help of a spiritual master. They think it possible to understand truth by speculation. But I've heard that learned pure devotees do not approve of conjecture. They say it is possible to become detached They say it is only possible to become detached from this world and rise to the spiritual platform of loving service to the Lord with the guidance of an authorized spiritual master like yourself. My dear sage, I've asked all these questions because I want to understand the principles which will enable me to attain Krishna's transcendental loving service. You are a kind friend to all souls who have lost their way in this world due to bad association. Therefore, kindly instruct me. Vidhura placed his head at Maitreya's feet. I really love this image of, imagine Vidhura putting his head on Maitreya's feet. That's so sweet. See, everything is so personal. Everything is about relationship. Everything is about that faith that we develop in people we want to follow, people we want to hear from and learn and be guided. It's not some kind of a theoretical knowledge which is based on information. It's based on the transformation because of the qualification. What is the qualification of Maitreya? Maitreya Muni's qualification is his devotion, his connection, emotional attachment to the Lord. And we value qualities, we appreciate qualities in others that we value. In other words, if I value devotion, then I appreciate people who are devotional. If I appreciate people who are very humble, it's because I value the quality of humility. And this is why again and again in the Shastras, it is emphasized that it's not only the guru who needs to be qualified, but also the disciple needs to be a appropriate qualified recipient. It's like, okay, water is flowing, but if the vessel to hold it is not of a, doesn't have a shape, doesn't have the strength to hold the water, then it's not the source's fault. So similarly, we might approach, different people may approach the same person for knowledge, but depending on our ability and our openness and our willingness, we are able to appreciate the qualities and the values that we hold dear, then we can benefit from it. And so again and again, we see in Bhagavatam that it's the attitude of the devotee which makes the devotee great, and not necessarily the attributes of a devotee. Attributes and attitudes. That's like yes, Taruni, please.
When you were saying, Mataji, like what's the qualification of Vidhura, and you said like it's devotion, and that I mean, I was just reminded because I was reading the purport also when I was doing it, and then in that, right, so beautifully he's explaining like Maitreya, from where did he get devotion? From his guru, right? His guru will be like he will be killing all the asuras, and then the leader of the asuras, the Pulastya Muni, that's what they've given the name of Maitreya's guru also, I forgot that, but the demons the leader is Pulastya Muni, Pulastya. And then he'll get very upset that all the demons are being killed by this Maitreya Muni's guru. And then that time Brahmaji will come and say, please, you can't kill all the demons. And that time, Maitreya Muni's Guru Maharaj, he'll be like, yeah, that's true. I need to forgive. Only one of the demons killed, somebody who was close to me, because of which why I'm killing all the demons. That's not correct. Demons, that's their nature. They're going to do that. I am a Brahmana. I should exhibit this quality of forgiveness, and I should do it. And immediately he'll stop killing all the demons, during the sacrifice. That will really impress Pulastya Muni. Pulastya, who is the leader of the demons. And then he'll benedict that, you, even though he's the leader of the demons, he'll benedict that, yes, you should be able to, be able to hear the Srimad Bhagavatam when it's been recited. So that's how he'll get a chance to hear the Bhagavatam. That's Maitreya Muni, and then he'll pass it on to his disciple. I was like, wow, just imagine, just because of that. He just says like, the demons can't give up their nature. Why should I, being a Brahmana, give up my nature to forgive? We always talk about this forgiveness thing, right? So that's one thing. I wanted to share that.
Beautiful.
It's all in the purports, actually, all this.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, let's resume reading. O sinless Maitreya, by giving clear knowledge on these topics, Not only will you deliver me from worldly existence, but your answers will also grant immunity from material miseries to others, even in the future. Wow, I like the way he has put it. This must be from 7th chapter, text 41. I like the word immunity. It's like, COVID situation is like we are getting the vaccination shot with Bhagavatam knowledge. Okay, one other comment I had was, it's amazing, like, I missed these Bhagavatam readings, hearing the realizations and references, and also the mood, both you and Rasastali Mataji and Taruni Radha, both of you have this mood of like really like Bhagavatam mood. So I really can see the benefit of association, like-minded association, how that can impact us deeply. I really like, when you take a break from something, or when you have a time off from it, then you have experience of what it actually does on our consciousness. And I'm thinking similarly, like what Taruni was referring to, how did Maitreya get that devotion? He gets it from his guru. And so, we are also dependent on the mercy of Guru and Krishna and Vaishnavas. And I'm experiencing the advantage or like the benefits of Sangha. And whenever I'm in Sangha, which is so focused on knowledge and not so much on transformation, or more focused on information, I easily get influenced by it. And when I'm associating with somebody who is more, focused on the attitude, like that, I also feel the same way. So association is such a balm to the aching heart, or this like agitated or triggered, because we're always triggered in this material world by everything, anything. So having that like-minded, Bhagavatam speaks about like-minded association. And I'm realizing more and more the importance of that. Like-minded association makes us connect with really who we are, really what our value systems are, and how we can progress, because different people have different ways of progressing. Some people feel first they think, like thoughts come to them, and then gradually emotions develop for them. And for some, listening to a bhajan itself invokes emotions. So similarly, even studying Bhagavatam, different people will like to nourish and enjoy in different ways. And it's not very easy to find like-minded association where we are all focused on one thing, where we value the same things. It's a great blessing. So I'm expressing my gratitude here for this platform where we can study together. I like this next part here. Parikshit sat spellbound, careless of hunger, thirst, or fatigue. In the darkness of the night, he could not see the features of the sages in the audience. Shukadeva's noble visage alone was visible by the moonlight. The youthful sage sat straight-backed, the forefingers of his right hand raised in a mudra of instruction as he continued to speak. Let's hold that vision in our mind, the thought of Parikshit and Shukadeva Goswami speaking about these conversations between Maitreya and Vidhura. One day of doing Nirjala Ekadashi, how we feel. Imagine Parikshit. I went to sleep on the day of Ekadashi, like, finally, when I wake up, I can drink water. And Parikshit could not even care about those kind of things. That's the nectar, right? That's the taste for hearing Krishna's pastimes. Maitreya is the chief of sages and always enthusiastic to speak about Krishna. Enlivened by Vidura's questions, he joyfully narrated the sections of the Puranas which deal with the Lord's transcendental activities. He paused and looked querulously at Parikshit to see if he had any questions. Parikshit said, Master, kindly tell me all that Maitreya told my great uncle, the Saint Vidhura. Pleased by the king's eagerness, Shukadeva replied, Hear now Maitreya's teachings. And then this begins the chapter that you already read. So this may be a good refresher to summarize our understanding. Wow. Would you like to read it?
Should I read?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, appearance of Brahma from Vishnu. Maitreya says he will answer Mitra's questions by reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam and assures him that anyone who attentively hears this literature will transcend material suffering. First, he describes how he came to hear the Srimad Bhagavatam. He then describes Brahma's appearance on the lotus coming from Garbhodakshai, Vishnu's abdomen, and Brahma's vision of the Lord. Maitreya's heart swelled with happiness in Vidura's company. He praised Vidura with affection. The Puru dynasty in which you appeared is full of Krishna's devotees who are attached only by his personal form. Because you have such worthy ancestry in your company, I feel the Lord's glories are ever new at every moment. Vidura bowed his head. Maitreya continued, I shall answer your questions by recounting the beautiful pastimes of the Supreme Lord and his pure devotees as they were first spoken by the Lord himself and passed down in the line of great sages. This narration is known as Srimad Bhagavatam. By hearing this Bhagavatam from a self-realized devotee, even those suffering extreme miseries for the sake of fleeting pleasures can get freedom from material entanglement. Vidura's face lit up. He had heard about the Srimad Bhagavatam and felt fortunate to hear it from Maitreya. Most people were engrossed in painful endeavors for the sake of minuscule happiness. Identifying with their material bodies, they engaged in worldly work, not realizing that they are only entangling themselves in suffering life after life. Now Maitreya was assuring him that even these people could become truly happy by understanding the Bhagavatam. It must be very powerful. Vidura was curious to know to whom the Lord had first spoken the Bhagavatam and how it had come to Maitreya. Maitreya said, some time ago, the four boy sages known as the Kumaras, headed by Sanat Kumar, asked questions similar to yours from Sankarsana, also known as Garbhodakshai Vishnu, who lies at the bottom of the universe on the bed of Anant Shesha, the divine serpent. The sages wanted to understand the truths of Lord Vasudeva. At that time, Sankarsana was meditating on Vasudeva, his origin. Sensing the presence of great learned sages, the desiring their good, he slightly opened his eyes. The Kumaras had traveled from the highest planets down to the lower region through the Ganges. Their hair still wet, they touched the Lord's lotus-like feet, which the daughters of the Serpent King worshipped with elaborate paraphernalia in order to attain good husbands. The four voice sages glorified the Lord's activities in voices choked with love. Hearing their prayers, the jewels of Ananta's thousand raised hoods began to shine. Sankarsana then instructed the sages in Srimad Bhagavatam. Many years later, Sanat Kumar narrated what he had heard from the Lord to Sankarsana Muni, who later spoke it in a gathering of celestial sages. At that time, both my spiritual master, Prashara, and Brihaspati, the god's preceptor, heard him. Blessed by Pulastya, my spiritual master was empowered to teach it to mankind. Thus I heard it from him. I shall now narrate those exact same teachings to you. You are qualified to hear this because you are faithful and obedient to your superiors. Vidura remembered hearing about an incident between Parashara and Pulastya, the father of the cannibalistic Rakshana race. When a
Rakshasa.
Rakshasa ate Parashara's father,
Yeah, let's pause here. This is 2 points here. One is about qualification to hear. It's not that everybody can understand Bhagavatam, everybody can digest it, everybody can be a recipient. Say similar like Krishna, even not everybody is qualified to be killed by Krishna. Some demons, Krishna didn't even touch them. And today I'm supposed to give class in the temple, Bhagavatam class, and it's about Muchukunda and Kalyavana. It's like that. Kalyavana was, Krishna didn't even let Kalyavana touch Krishna. It's like sometimes Krishna fights, right, with Kamsa or other people, he fights. But some, they're not even qualified to touch Krishna, what to speak of being killed by Krishna. Similarly, what to speak of understanding Krishna's leelas and pastimes, and it's not meant for everybody. And that's why he protects the knowledge as well. It's not for everybody. It's not for everybody's consumption. It can only be received properly by somebody who is faithful and obedient. To superiors doesn't only mean like elderly or senior in age. Superior means anything that is, any knowledge, any principle that is superior or beneficial for us. So it's not like we think we judge people by their age or the seniority on the external level alone, but we also consider, like Shukadeva Goswami here is the youngest person among all the sages. Shukadeva Goswami is only 16 years old, but everybody is reverentially sitting and hearing. So superior can also mean superior in knowledge, superior in wealth, superior in different aspects of what Bhagavatam speaks about. Guna, Dhamma, Tanu, Proshan. Somebody may be superior in qualities. I think something like that is there in Mahabharata also, like about this knowledge about who we need to respect for what. Like some people, we respect them because they are more wealthy than us. Some are more knowledgeable than us. Some are more renounced than us. So there are different categories of superiority, and it's not just superior in terms of age or number of years that somebody's chanting a specific mantra or something like that. It's about the consciousness, and that is again about attitude, the attitude to the openness, the willingness to receive knowledge, to receive wisdom, to receive bhakti. And I like that point, what Taruni was saying about Maitreya, where he gets it is from his guru. What does he get? He gets devotion. It's not so much about information. It's about the mood is what is transferred between speakers. It's like in 10th canto, when Krishna is born also, right? Vasudeva transfers from his heart. He transfers Krishna to the womb of Devaki. Similarly, the spiritual master, the teachers, the preceptors transfer their surrender, their mood, their devotion, their attitude of Krishna Bhakti to us. And yes, in the form of information, but actually what's being transferred is not information, it's the transformation of our consciousness. That's what is being transferred and given to us. Okay, you can continue. What is that? When Rakshasa ate Parashara's father Shakti. Yeah.
However, the thousand-headed Ananta? No, initially sought revenge.
Yeah, here. He initially sought revenge. Yes.
He initially sought revenge. He thus began to sacrifice to burn all the Rakshasas to death. However, requested by his grandfather, sage Vashishta, he forgave the Rakshasas and desisted from killing them. This pleased Pulasya, who blessed Parashara to become a great teacher of the Vedic literatures called the Puranas. Vidhura listened with eager anticipation as Maitreya began to speak the Srimad Bhagavatam precisely as he had heard it from his teacher Parashara. The thousand-headed Anantaswam in the Garbhodaka ocean, which half filled the universal egg. Four-armed Garbhodakshai Vishnu lay on him as if in slumber. His eyes half closed, he had given up glancing at his external energy and was now absorbed in enjoying his own internal spiritual potency. Vishnu had exerted his energy of time to destroy the three planetary systems. Now all the living beings rested within him in their subtle bodies. As he lay in the waters of dissolution, he was unseen by the sages in the highest planets, which had not been destroyed, just as the fire in wood is undetected. For 1,000 yoga cycles, the Lord enjoyed his internal energy, experiencing bliss within himself, and remained indifferent to his external energy. Then he glanced at the living beings who lay within his body, arousing them by his energy of time or avidya, which deludes them into thinking they can be happy by enjoying the results of their work. Due to this polluted mentality and their past sense, the aggregate combination of living beings appeared bluish. The Lord's glance then fell on the subtle elements that lay dormant within him, and his time energy followed their action. The elements thus pushed through the Lord's abdomen, and creation began. Impelled by the awakened destines of the living beings, the material elements took the form of gigantic lotus flower, which like the sun lit up the expansive water where the Lord lay. This lotus became the Virat Rupa, or the gigantic universal form of the Lord. Garbhodakshai Vishnu expanded himself as the super soul, Kshirodakshai Vishnu to enter the lotus, within which were the three modes of nature. The first created being, Brahma, the embodiment of Vedic wisdom, was then generated from the cosmic flower. From his seat in its world, Brahma could not see any planets. Straining to look out into space, he turned his head to the north, the south, the east, and the west. By so doing, he attained four heads, enabling him to see in all directions. Devastating winds whipped the great Garbhodaka ocean into fierce whirlpools. Seated on the trembling lotus, Brahma was confused. How had he appeared there? What was the lotus' origin? Where was the rest of creation? He looked down. Surely there was something in the water below from which the lotus had sprouted. Completely bewildered, Brahma climbed down the hollow of its top, thereby entering the Garbhodaka ocean. Still, he could not see its source. Brahma held his breath and plunged deep in within the waters. He searched arduously for a long time, but finding nothing. Vishnu lay nearby, concealing himself by his own potency. He smiled. Brahma's efforts to find him without bhakti could never succeed. The four-headed god was baffled, unable To hold his breath much longer, he felt like he was about to expire. It seemed to him that Vishnu's fearful chakra that ends the life of all beings was approaching him. He needed to surface quickly and return to the lotus. The anxious god pushed up to the surface of the water and climbed back up the lotus stalk. So much for his being the great universal creator. He could not even understand his own origin. He sat in yogic trance, controlling his breath and concentrating his mind on the Supreme Lord. After he had meditated in this humble mood for 100 celestial years, Vishnu became pleased with him and appeared within his heart in a splendid vision.
Jai. We can pause here for today, and then we'll continue tomorrow. Is this kind of like a summary what you have been reading, Karuni? You were also there, right, Rasastali Mataji?
Yes,
Yes,
Yeah.
Mataji.
It's a good refresher, right?
yeah.
Yeah, it's nice. Especially one more thing which really is interesting is how they were saying this entire lotus itself is like the culmination of all the fruitive activities of all the living entities who could not actually make it back to the spiritual world just
Yeah.
before the that is like so fantastic, right?
Yeah. Fascinating.
And also that Virat Rupa that we are seeing is saying this lotus flower is the Virat Rupa of the Lord. That also it came one particular line was there about that. I was like, wow, so many interesting. It
Yeah,
was like
very
all coming together, right? It all comes together. Like how Bhagavad Gita, we are talking about karma means what? That means fruitive activities. A result of your fruitive activities, whatever karma you're doing, you're developing another body because of that, right?
Right.
So fruitive activities will perpetuate our eternal stay over here in this material world. And then this is trying to say like that entire the lotus itself is a culmination, and it's not just like one soul, all the souls who did not make it. It's a culmination of all their fruitive activities, because ultimately when they get up, what happens? They'll all get their bodies according to what they would have done in their previous lives, right? So I was like, it was beautiful. I was like, wow.
Yeah, it's perfect arrangement of Krishna. And it's an analogy to help, it helps us hold how the workings are going on. It's a good meditation. How can we become impersonalists after reading all this?
And also all the time, remember we were talking about penance. See, even Brahma is doing it, and then the Lord is like so happy with him, and then he reveals himself. So without that kind of penance and austerity, it's not possible. Perhaps when we're doing austerity, we're saying no to sense gratification. That's what I was like saying the other day, remember? The same thing. He's not thinking about his own self. He's like completely absorbed in the Lord. So it's only devotion ultimately which can attract the Lord's mercy, all his mercy, plans, everything, and his ultimate revelation happens by this what do you say, penance.
And one other thing I have been observing in, like yesterday I gave a class to Russian Matajis at my house. It seems like, for example, Dhruva, okay, there was powerlessness in his attempts. No, he was determined, but he was feeling so powerless that he couldn't even sit on the father's lap. And he went away to the forest to do austerity. And then Arjuna on the battlefield, it's not that he's like, Dhruva was a prince. He's not a beggar on the street. It's not that he didn't have food to eat, or he didn't have respect. He didn't feel like validated for who he was. And then Arjuna is not that he was weak soldier who was just there, you don't have any weapons, don't have any mantras or something, and he went to Krishna because he's so like fallen. He was such a powerful warrior, but he went in the state of powerlessness. And now we can see even Brahma is a similar mood. He's going there. It's not because he's not empowered. He is. I mean, he's Krishna's son, he's super empowered. But the attitude of powerlessness, the attitude of humility, the attitude of being subservient to the Lord's plans, it seems that it can purify us even if our intentions are not pure initially. Like, for example, Dhruva, even though his intentions were not to reach God, but he approached God to reach his goals. And then he made God his goal anyway. He didn't get sucked into his material desire. He had great opportunity for devotional service because Narad Muni came, he told him, give up envy, he gave all that. Still, because of material desires, he couldn't immediately. So it doesn't matter even if we don't immediately, as long as we hold on to the lotus feet of the Lord, as long as we take shelter of the Lord, akama sarva kamova, whether it's for material desires, whether it's for pure bhakti, whether it's for praying for somebody else, and somehow or another, if we can actually connect ourselves to the flight, it will take us off, it will take off, and then we'll also be in the right direction. So I'm thinking more and more of this. Like I'm starting to appreciate more and more of the pain and disappointments in my life, because I feel that it's that which actually gives me the what do you call it, impetus to take shelter of the Lord. And it's not my good qualities or my attributes that actually pushes me towards Krishna. It's actually my weaknesses that pushes me towards Krishna more, because I'm going in that state of hopelessness, helplessness. I can't control the situation. And it seems more and more and more in many situations, whether it's Kunti, whether it is Arjuna, whether it is Dhruva, it's that giving up of control. Admitting that I don't have control. Admitting that I am I'm not able to fix my life. I'm not able to solve my own problems. And I need you, Krishna. Like that, it seems that's the key as it's coming up for me these days, more and more and more and more. Everything I'm reading, even in Jagannath Puri, many stories, the Chari Dham inside the temple that happened because a devotee's powerlessness. He couldn't travel to Badrinath and Kedarnath and Gangotri and Yamunotri. And then because of that powerlessness and his austerity, Jagannath was pleased, and then the Chari Dham was created within Jagannath Mandir. Like that, so many devotee stories are like, it's because of that attitude of humility, attitude of surrender. That's what means surrender, to admit that I'm not in control of my own life, even. I'm not in control of anything. Even my anartha nivritti, I'm not in control of it. Only and if only Krishna wishes, I can, as he wishes, when he wishes. Sometimes I was thinking yesterday, I'm going to stop the live here because I'm sharing something personal.